Westminster. He's one of the biggest names in modern day politics, and with the greatest of pleasure, it gives me to introduce Kenneth Clark.
Well, thank you very much, David. That was, as an introduction, taken from the internet. That wasn't bad, actually. From the introduction, it's very nice to be here, and glad that I was able to get here to enjoy your lunch, which I didn't expect I would at one point, as well as to meet some members of the Birmingham Law Society. We agreed that it would be informal. It was at your request, but it delights me because I keep giving fringe speeches, so to have questions and answers is obviously more useful and do it in a reasonably informal way, and I'm reinforced in that by the fact that I've already met two people who heard me at Rags, I think last night at a Law Society reception, so I mean I can't give the same speech again, that would be off limits, so I look forward to your questions. Can I begin by a personal note saying I'm particularly glad to be in Birmingham, so is Gillian. I was a Birmingham local at the bar. I practiced here from 63 to 79, as you got me to remind myself, and greatly enjoyed it here, enjoyed the city, enjoyed practicing here. In the old days, Birmingham Law Society would have been full of my friends and clients, but like most of the people I was with at the bar, they've all retired as well, so I no longer know the people here, but it was a great place to practice, and I have fond memories of 41 Temple Row, 3 Fountain Court, which is now gone, and practicing in the law courts in Birmingham, Coventry, Warwick, and all over the Black Country. So it's good to be back. I've just been saying we've got to combine being efficient controllers of the public finances with being a reforming government that finds better ways of doing things. It's no good just taking 10% off everything we did before, or 20% or 40% off the way New Labour did it, and just doing it cheaper. Radical reform is really called for. And in the law, we do have to ask ourselves, well, what is it that we're providing? How do we protect the essential structure of law? What should the taxpayer put money in? How can we organise it in a way that makes more sense? The main areas I cover, obviously, apart from the content of civil and criminal law, the administration of the courts, and is the crime and punishment, which will arouse all the public and media interest for understandable reasons. I'm all in favour of having a system which is punitive and protective. That's what it's all about. But the prisons are now bulging at the seams, hopelessly overcrowded, with a sort of tail end of a recidivist population. Half of all prisoners commit another offence within 12 months of being released. If you go to people with 12 months or less, two-thirds of them commit another offence and are arrested again within a year of being released. This is quite ridiculous. And so in addition to custody, in addition to keeping people in, we've got to make another attempt to try to cut reoffending, and do so on a basis where we have no money to actually invest in, just invest in new drug programs, just invest in new mental health facilities, just invest in training and work opportunities and so on. So we're quite a tall order, and we're working on it. I'm trying to get people to raise capital and get paid by results on projects to help people coming out of prison, try and get some sensible community programs. If you reduce the rate of reoffending, you reduce crime and you reduce the risk of future victims. Just churning a subclass through Winston Green is not something we should resign ourselves to. It's quite hard work getting through that. Then, of course, you have the question of providing legal advice, legal support for the population, particularly those who can't afford it. And legal aid is going to be an enormous subject. We are going to make drastic changes to legal aid. I make no secret of it. We are going to take the Commission into the department and make it an agency. Are going to try and produce more competitive arrangements and going out to tender and so on. We appear to have got ourselves in a great mess in the first one that the Commission has tried, so we'll see if we do better when we bring it into the department. I don't know what the Commission are going to do with their tendering exercise that they've just engaged in. We do have to ask ourselves, how poor do you have to be before the taxpayer pays for you? And I'm afraid we are going to have a pretty tight means test compared with the past. And then what scope should we have? What subjects is it in the public interest? The taxpayer isn't just funding people who want to have a row with a neighbour, and isn't just funding the development of legal practices. It's actually paying because we think the interests of justice require that no ordinary citizen should be deprived of the right of defending his or her key interests because they can't afford it, and they should have access to justice. Very difficult to square compared with where we are now. And the whole subject matters, I think, we're going to have to re-examine and say, is combative litigation necessarily the best thing for the taxpayer to be funding to resolve the problems of this family or whatever it may happen to be. But we've some way to go. What I assured you, as I assured people at Rags the other day, is we will consult. It is a complex issue. I didn't even refer to it in my party conference speech, and that's not because I wanted to disguise it. I talk about it to law societies. The fact is, we do hope to engage with law societies, with practitioners, with people in both branches of the profession, and a fundamental reconsideration of legal aid. I shall defend what we do, not only by the national financial crisis, but by pointing out that we have the most generous system of legal aid in the world by a street. I mean, far higher cost per head taxpayers than any other part of the world. And I'll bet by the time Jonathan Janogly and I have finished, we'll still have the most expensive system in the world. It's more generous than any other system in the world, but it's got to be cut back a bit. And we will be trying to cut, believe it or not, doing no harm, actually concentrating on where things are done best and paying heed to those that understand, most importantly, the impact on their clients and their community on the ground. So I spoke much longer than I intended, but I'm still meant to be answering questions. Sir.
Mr. Clark, Nicholas Roy, I'm one of the few people here who probably remember you as Councillor number 3, Fountain Court. May I first say that I'm delighted that you said about consultation. One of the problems I think the legal profession has had over the last few years is that certainly the practitioners have by and large been the last people that the government has bothered to talk about. Two questions I'm sorry to ask two. One is, if you make every prisoner do 40 hours work at the minimum wage, what effect will that have on the economy in general? And secondly, are you seriously considering scrapping the Supreme Court?
I haven't been hiring back much, but we tried this in John Major's time, really, and when I was Home Secretary I was quite keen on the idea of getting a more working day into prisons. The problem is, I describe prisons as enforced idleness. People just hang around, really, most of the time, and the volunteers going to workshops, and they can be quite pathetic or they can be quite good. There's less of it than there was. And there are companies that go in and do some training and actually recruit a handful. The more you could encourage to do, lots and lots of people want to do philanthropic work of one kind or another, and some people are quite prepared to invest in it using charitable funds. So the idea is that given you're trying to get more of these people, don't just by naive, the hardcore, the British criminal classes will not rapidly be converted, but there are more of them who could be induced when they come out to get down to a more productive life. And the first thing is to get used to working from 9 till 5, to keep into the discipline of work if you've ever had it, and to even acquire a bit of training and get yourself prepared for going out. And some companies will provide that, and even you can organise things which produce things. There are all kinds of snags. I keep pointing out to my colleagues who are quite keen on this one, that when we tried it before, it is slow going. And one of the things you have to guard against is not getting workshops set up in prisons which are putting businesses outside out of business. My aides are fed up to the back teeth because I can't remember where the hell it was. I remember when I was Home Secretary going around a place that was making lampshades. And they were making rather good lampshades, and the governor was keen, so it was getting quite a thriving business going, making lampshades, but they were. I was getting complaints, quite rightly, from lampshade manufacturers who couldn't compete with the prison. Now, they've all gone anyway, because the Chinese have put them out of business. So lampshades for that reason might be quite a good area to go in, I don't know. But I suspect that there aren't many lampshade makers left apart from the pure craft ones, making very upmarket ones. But we will be careful, and I can quite see that we'll be rightly condemned, it's not just fear of publicity, if we are using the prisons to train and prepare and produce things which are putting some business down the road out of business. That's why it'll be slow going, actually, and I tried not to oversell it. On the second point, no, we're not. There was a leak, I think, about killing quangos, wasn't there? I thought we got it off. I mean, I'd never seen this leak, and there's a damn great list, and I'm killing off a lot of quangos. But it had the Supreme Court on. No, the Supreme Court will remain the Supreme Court. I personally wouldn't have made the change because the House of Lords worked, and I think half of them regret that they left the Palace of Westminster, which is not a nicer place to sit than the old Middlesex Town Hall over the way, but I think they thought we were going to build them some grand palace somewhere like the one in America, and we never did. But no, it says we need a Supreme Court. And the reason we never won't change it is the old system was indefensible. To explain to an African statesman that we had people who were both legislators and judges, or if we explained to them that the guy who was the Lord Chancellor was appointed by the Prime Minister, was a cabinet minister and a party politician, appointed all the other judges and sat as a judge, you'd have thought even Robert Mugabe couldn't get away with that. So the reform when it was done was a mess and all that stuff, but it's all totally irreversible. You can't go back to any of that. So it worked before because the people appointed by both sides were the right kind of people, and the Supreme Court is now out there on its own and will remain so, and will hold, through judicial review, it will hold governments and legislation to account as much as everybody else, which, although it will irritate me the first time I lose one, is, I think, a very, very good development in the law, given the power of the modern executive in recent times. Anyway, I get a very long answer, because I can see not the slightest sign of anybody else asking, I give you a short one.